I still remember the way Meredith smiled when she fired me. Not a hint of remorse in those calculating eyes as security waited by the door of her glass-walled office. 5 years I'd given to that company. 5 years of late nights, missed birthdays, and canceled plans. Job hunting on company time, Leah? That's grounds for immediate termination. It was on my lunch break, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. She slid my employee badge across her immaculate desk. Loyalty matters here. You've demonstrated a clear lack of it. No warning, no severance, just a perfectly rehearsed speech about company values from the woman who'd promised to mentor me years ago. I gathered my things in a cardboard box while my colleagues watched in stunned silence. Some couldn't meet my eyes. Others texted frantically under their desks. I'd built this department from nothing, and now I was being paraded out like a criminal. As the elevator doors closed on my career, a strange calm washed over me. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something darker, something with teeth. She has no idea what I know, I whispered to my reflection in the elevator doors. And in that moment, I decided Meredith Parker was about to learn exactly what happens when you push the wrong woman too far. 5 years earlier, I'd walked into that same building starstruck by Meredith Parker, the youngest female executive in company history. Her reputation preceded her. Brilliant, uncompromising, groundbreaking. When she personally selected me for her team, I thought I'd won the career lottery. "I see something in you," she'd said, her perfectly manicured hand resting on my shoulder. Raw talent that needs shaping. I worked myself to the bone to prove her right. First one in, last one out. Taking her harsh criticism as tough love. Believing her when she said I wasn't quite ready for advancement, that I needed more polish. The memory of our first major campaign made me grip my steering wheel tighter as I drove home from being fired. I'd conceptualized it entirely, the visuals, the messaging, the market analysis. But when presentation day came, my name had mysteriously disappeared from the deck. "Excellent work, Meredith," the CEO had praised. And she'd smiled, never once mentioning my contribution. Back home, I opened my laptop and began digging through old files, wondering how I'd been so blind. There it was, my original pitch deck from 3 years ago, complete with edit history and timestamps. I'd created it 2 weeks before Meredith had conceived her award-winning campaign. The wine bottle was half empty when I started digging deeper. 5 years of files, surely there would be a pattern. I created a folder labeled Evidence, with a bitter laugh. Evidence of what, exactly? Being naive? Then I found it. An Excel spreadsheet I wasn't supposed to see, accidentally shared during a budget alignment meeting last year. I'd saved it, confused by the columns marked Market Adjustment Potential and Retention Risk. Now, with clearer eyes, I understood exactly what I was looking at. A salary analysis. My name, alongside my colleague Jason's, who I'd personally trained when he joined. My salary, $78,000. His, $102,000. My hands shook so badly I knocked over my wine glass. This wasn't just dismissal. It wasn't just stolen credit. It was systematic. For 5 years I'd been underpaid, overlooked, and strategically suppressed. All while Meredith built her reputation as a champion for women in the workplace. The hypocrisy made me physically ill. My phone buzzed with a notification from LinkedIn. A name I hadn't seen in years. Jenna requesting to connect. The quiet intern who'd left suddenly after Meredith had reduced her to tears in front of the entire creative team. The message read, "We should talk. Soon." Jenna looked nothing like the nervous intern I remembered. Gone was the hunched posture and apologetic smile. The woman who slid into the booth across from me radiated confidence, from her sharp bob to her knowing eyes. "You look shell-shocked," she said, sliding a gin and tonic toward me. "Being fired will do that," I replied. "Let me guess, suddenly disloyal? Performance issues that were never previously documented? Or my personal favorite, not a culture fit after years of fitting just fine?" I stared at her. "How did you?" "Because it's what she does," Jenna said, pulling out her tablet. She opened a website I'd never seen before, Crack the Ceiling, sleek, professional, with over 1 million followers. "I'm an investigative journalist now. I specialize in workplace ethics and corporate abuse. Last month's expose got a CMO fired and facing legal action." My throat went dry. "And you want to talk about Meredith?" "I've been tracking her for years, Leah. You're the fourth person she's fired this way. I've been waiting for someone with enough documentation to finally nail her. I took a long sip of my drink. What exactly are you proposing? Jenna's smile was sharp as glass. I think we burn her down. My apartment looked like an evidence room. Every email, text message, and document spread across my dining table as Jenna methodically photographed and cataloged them. 5 years of gaslighting, I muttered, holding up a performance review where Meredith had criticized the very campaign concept she later claimed as her own. It's textbook, Jenna said. Build dependency, isolate, undermine, take credit, discard. I found a voice memo I'd forgotten recording, a tense review where Meredith had said, "You're just not leadership material, Leah." I'd kept it to re-listen, thinking there might be constructive feedback buried in her criticism. Now it felt like evidence. An email thread appeared where she discussed my future with HR. She lacks executive presence. Let's keep her in support roles. I was never meant to see it. She'd accidentally included me on a reply. My hands shook as I unearthed file after file, screenshots, emails, texts. 5 years of documented theft and sabotage. The picture it painted made me sick. This isn't just unprofessional, Jenna said, her eyes wide as she scrolled through my evidence. This is career homicide. She looked up at me, her expression dead serious. This isn't just one article, Leah. It's a series, and it's going to end her. You weren't the first, Jenna said the next morning, passing me a coffee. And you wouldn't have been the last. She'd spent the night reaching out to former employees who'd worked under Meredith. Some names I recognized. Women who'd suddenly left or been let go. Others were from before my time. 4 have responded so far, she continued. 1 blocked me immediately. Another said she signed an NDA and can't risk it. But 2. She slid her phone across the table. The stories made my stomach churn. Sarah had been on track for promotion until Meredith sabotaged her major presentation. Kate had been placed on a performance improvement plan after returning from maternity leave, despite stellar reviews before her departure. This one made me throw up, Jenna said, showing me an email Kate had forwarded, an internal message from Meredith to HR. She's clearly too emotional to manage people now. Motherhood has impacted her focus. I pushed the phone away, my hands trembling. She destroyed careers. Not careers, Jenna corrected. Women, specifically women who threatened her in any way. Another message came through. Someone had shared an HR complaint where Meredith had successfully argued against a woman's promotion because she was too aggressive in meetings. The same meetings, Jenna noted, where she praised male colleagues for being assertive. Over the next week, Jenna began strategically teasing her upcoming story online. Vague quotes about toxic mentorship and weaponized female leadership appeared on her platforms. No names, no companies, just enough to make industry insiders pause. Watch what happens, she told me over lunch. It started slowly. Anonymous accounts replying with suspiciously specific agreement. Sounds like someone I know. This happened at my old agency too. Former employees recognizing the pattern without ever seeing Meredith's name. Meanwhile, Meredith continued her perfectly curated social media presence. Business insights, empowerment quotes, a panel on lifting women up. The dramatic irony would have been hilarious if it hadn't cost me my career. She has no idea what's coming, I said, watching her latest post rack up likes and admiring comments. That evening, she posted a photo of herself with a glass of red wine, expensive art in the background. Strong women don't explain. We evolve. I sent it to Jenna with a single question mark. Perfect timing, Jenna replied. The first article drops tomorrow morning. I barely slept that night, torn between terror and vindication. By morning, my name would be forever linked to this scandal, but so would Meredith's. The difference was, I had nothing left to lose. The corporate queen who silenced her court went live at 7 a.m. I watched the view counter tick up in real time, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Jenna had written it masterfully, factual, anonymous, but unmistakably about Meredith Parker. No names appeared in the article, but the details were damning. Specific patterns, anonymized quotes, timelines that industry insiders would recognize instantly. It was tasteful and explosive all at once. By noon, the comment section had exploded with vague support from former employees. I worked there. This is accurate. I witnessed this behavior firsthand. Thank you for finally exposing this. LinkedIn became a battleground of subtweets, people sharing the article with pointed comments about leadership integrity and toxic mentorship. Others defending unnamed Meredith with platitudes about tough women being unfairly criticized. At 2:13 p.m., my phone rang, a former colleague still at the company. HR just called Meredith in, he whispered. The board saw the article. They're freaking out because 3 separate people sent it to them asking if it was about us. What's she saying? I asked, heart pounding. Nothing yet. But Leah, people know it's about her, and they're talking. For the first time ever, they're actually talking. I thanked him and immediately texted Jenna. HR contacted her. The board is watching. Jenna's response was immediate. Good. Now we wait. Meredith's response was unexpected. Complete digital silence. No defensive posts. No vague inspirational quotes. Her social media accounts went dormant. According to my inside sources, she didn't even come into the office the next day. Or the day after. Internal meetings canceled, my former colleague texted. Some kind of strategic planning happening with HR and legal. Jenna was ecstatic. Silence is admission, she said. If she had proof we were lying, she'd be shouting it. But something felt off. Meredith wasn't one to retreat. She was a fighter, ruthless and calculating. This silence felt more like regrouping than surrendering. The board is reviewing all her personnel decisions from the last 3 years, my source continued. They're worried about legal liability. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt exposed, like I'd poked a sleeping predator. My instinct proved right when Jenna called that evening, voice tight with concern. My contact in IT just warned me. Meredith's team is digging through server logs, looking for whoever leaked documents. They're building a counterattack, Leah. I sank onto my couch, suddenly remembering all the files I'd accessed on company servers before being fired. Had I left digital fingerprints? What does this mean? I asked. It means she's coming for whoever she thinks betrayed her, Jenna replied, and we need to be ready. That night, unable to sleep, I emptied my junk drawer looking for something, anything, that might help strengthen our case before Meredith's counterattack. Buried beneath old receipts and spare keys, I found it. A USB drive I'd forgotten about from my first 2 years at the company. My hands shook as I plugged it in. It was loaded with backup files from before I'd started saving everything to the cloud, including original campaign decks. My campaign decks. All time-stamped, all dated, all since claimed by Meredith as her own work. I scrolled through file after file, my heart racing. This wasn't just circumstantial evidence anymore. It was smoking gun proof. Original documents with my name that predated Meredith's creations by weeks or months. One slide contained a photo that Meredith had specifically claimed she'd taken during a client visit. The metadata showed it had come from my phone. I had the original in my camera roll, dated 3 weeks before Meredith's concept shoot. I called Jenna at 3 a.m., not caring about the hour. I found everything, I said, my voice shaking. Original files, timestamps, proof that can't be explained away. Send it all, she replied, fully awake instantly. This changes everything. As I uploaded the files, a calm certainty washed over me. Meredith could dig through all the server logs she wanted. The evidence that would destroy her had been sitting in my junk drawer all along. While Jenna prepared her follow-up article, more former employees began reaching out. Each story followed the same pattern. Promising careers derailed through strategic sabotage. One woman sent a rejection letter for a promotion she'd been all but promised. Attached was a forwarded internal note from Meredith. She lacks polish. Let her sit a little longer. She said the exact same thing to me, I told Jenna, my skin crawling at the identical phrasing. It's calculated, Jenna explained. Vague enough to be subjective, specific enough to block advancement. Impossible to dispute without sounding defensive. Another woman described how Meredith had praised her idea in a private meeting, then presented it as her own in front of executives the very next day. When confronted, Meredith had suggested she was confused about the timeline. Gaslighting 101, Jenna muttered as we added it to our evidence file. That evening, Jenna called in a rush, her voice tight with excitement. I have the maternity leave email, she said. Someone from HR leaked it. It's worse than we thought. What does it say? I asked. Meredith explicitly told HR to put returning mothers on limited client contact, claimed they were flight risks and emotionally compromised. She created an actual policy to sideline women after childbirth. The systematic nature of it stole my breath. When does the next piece drop? Tomorrow, Jenna said, and this time, we're bringing receipts. A culture of control inside one woman's corporate kingdom hit the internet like a bomb. Unlike the first article, this one included evidence, redacted emails, document excerpts, quoted testimonies from 6 former employees. Still no names, but the industry knew exactly who it was about. Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. Marketing forums exploded with discussion. Former employees from years ago began adding their stories in comment sections. The pattern stretched back nearly a decade. By afternoon, the company's stock had dropped 7 points. 3 clients publicly announced they were reviewing their agency relationships. The hashtag corporate queen trended briefly on Twitter. At 5:47 p.m., Meredith finally broke her silence with a carefully worded statement posted across her platforms. I am aware of recent defamatory articles circulating about my leadership. These attacks are baseless and seem designed to damage my reputation rather than address legitimate concerns. I have always championed women in the workplace and stand by my record. I am consulting legal counsel regarding next steps. I ask for privacy during this difficult time. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenna. Notice she doesn't actually deny anything specific. I read Meredith's statement again, recognizing the calculated precision of her words. No direct denials, no specific refutations. Just vague references to her reputation and an implied legal threat. She was scared. For the first time in our 5-year history, Meredith Parker was actually scared. The fallout came faster than either of us anticipated. My inside source couldn't text fast enough. 2 biggest clients pulled their accounts this morning. No public announcement, but they're gone. An hour later, marketing team called into emergency meeting. Budget freeze effective immediately. By afternoon, 3 senior staff just quit, no notice, walked out with their things. HR in complete meltdown. Jenna's contact confirmed it all. The agency was in free fall. Morale had collapsed. People were updating resumes at their desks, not even bothering to hide it anymore. The board is cornered, Jenna explained over dinner. They can either fire Meredith and admit the articles were true, or stand by her and watch the company implode. I pushed my food around my plate, feeling strangely hollow. I thought this would feel better. Revenge rarely does, she said quietly. But justice might. My phone lit up with another update. Emergency all-hands meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mandatory attendance. I showed Jenna the message. Her eyes widened. Either they're firing her or they're circling the wagons. Which do you think it is? I asked. She considered for a moment. Depends on how many more clients they've lost that we don't know about yet. That night, I dreamt of glass offices shattering, and for the first time since being fired, I slept through until morning. The annual Women in Leadership Gala invitation arrived in my email the next morning. I stared at it in disbelief. I'd attended for the past 4 years as part of Meredith's team. This year, Meredith was being honored with the Visionary Leadership Award. I forwarded it to Jenna with a single question mark. Oh, this is too perfect, she called immediately. The hypocrisy is just chef's kiss. I can't attend, I said. My name's probably on a blacklist. Mine isn't, she replied. I already have press credentials, and you're coming as my +1. What's the point? I asked. To watch her accept an award for destroying women's careers? No, Jenna said, her voice dropping to that dangerous tone I was coming to recognize. The point is exposure. Real exposure. She explained her plan, so simple yet so devastating that it made my stomach clench. We wouldn't confront Meredith directly. We wouldn't cause a scene. We would simply let her own words and actions speak for themselves. Play the tribute video from your phone, she said. We'll override the main feed. That's insane, I whispered, already imagining the moment. That's justice, she finished. That's justice. I looked down at the invitation again, at Meredith's smiling face under the words, Champion for Women's Advancement. I'm in, I said. Let's finish this. For the next 3 days, Jenna and I worked relentlessly, editing together testimony clips, documents, quotes, and email screenshots into a devastating 7-minute video. No commentary needed. Just Meredith's own words and actions in stark, unfiltered reality. We need something undeniable. Jenna said, sorting through audio files. Something no one can dismiss as taken out of context. That's when I remembered. 3 years ago, during a particularly brutal review session, I'd started recording our meetings, not for any nefarious purpose, but to make sure I didn't miss any of her feedback. I dug through my old phone backups until I found it. Meredith's voice clear as day. Listen, sometimes you have to break a few women to rise in this industry. They either learn to get out of your way, or they become casualties. That's just business. Jenna's eyes widened as we listened. When was this? After she took credit for the Westfield campaign, I said, when I confronted her. This is it, she whispered. This is our smoking gun. We added it as the final clip in our video, followed by a simple black screen with white text. This is the woman being honored tonight. As we finalized the video, I added one last whispered line to the end, my own voice, calm and clear. But we remember what you did. All of us remember. When we watched the finished product, neither of us spoke for a long moment. The truth, laid bare in 7 devastating minutes, was more damning than any accusation could ever be. The gala venue gleamed with carefully orchestrated elegance. Champagne towers, ice sculptures, and meticulously dressed industry elites. I adjusted my borrowed gown, feeling like an imposter despite the press pass hanging around my neck. Beside me, Jenna looked completely at home, her camera swinging professionally from her neck. Remember, she whispered, act like you belong and no one will question you. And then I saw her, Meredith gliding through the crowd in a stunning black and gold gown, laughing and touching arms with the exact power players who could salvage her reputation. She looked untouchable, radiating confidence despite the scandals swirling around her. How is she so calm? I whispered. Sociopaths usually are, Jenna replied, snapping photos. Besides, the industry has a short memory. So without concrete proof linked directly to her name, she can still spin this. The ceremony began. Awards were presented, speeches were given, and then the announcer's voice boomed. And now for our Visionary Leadership Award, celebrating women who elevate other women. Meredith Parker. Applause thundered as she approached the stage, her smile dazzling under the lights. She began her speech, something about lifting as we climb and the sisterhood of leadership. That's when Jenna slipped away, heading toward the sound booth. I clutched my phone, the video queued up and ready to cast to the main system the moment she gave the signal. Meredith was mid-sentence when Jenna took the microphone. Excuse the interruption, she said smoothly, her journalist voice commanding instant attention. But I have a question for our honoree. How does it feel to stand here in a dress funded by the work of women you silenced, underpaid, and emotionally wrecked? The room went absolutely still. Time seemed to freeze as security rushed toward Jenna. The crowd murmured in confusion. Meredith's smile became a rigid mask. That's when I hit play. The giant screens behind Meredith flickered. The tribute video disappeared, replaced by emails, testimonies, and irrefutable evidence. Her own voice filled the ballroom. Sometimes you have to break a few women to rise. Technicians scrambled. Security hesitated, unsure who to target. But it was already streaming. Across YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Jenna's followers were watching it unfold in real time. The industry was watching. Meredith stood paralyzed mid-sentence as her carefully constructed image shattered on screens towering above her. Her face drained of color as she recognized her own words, her own emails, her own damning patterns displayed for everyone to see. 5 years of strategic cruelty condensed into 7 devastating minutes. The presenter, horrified, dropped the Crystal Award. It shattered on stage, the sound echoing like an exclamation point at the end of Meredith's career. Someone cut the feed, but it was too late. Phones were out, people were recording. The video had already been shared hundreds of times. Tomorrow, it would be thousands. As security finally regained control, escorting Jenna and me toward the exit, I locked eyes with Meredith one last time. For once, she had nothing to say. No calculated smile, no carefully worded deflection. Just the naked realization that everything she'd built was collapsing, and she had no one to blame but herself. 2 days later, the company issued a terse statement. Meredith Parker has stepped down for personal reasons. The board is conducting a thorough review of all allegations. Translation: they'd fired her but allowed her to save face, fearing the legal and PR nightmare of admitting they'd enabled her behavior, for years. The hashtag "But We Remember" trended for 3 days straight. Industry publications ran special issues on toxic mentorship. 4 other executives at different companies suddenly announced career transitions. HR launched a formal inquiry, bringing in outside counsel to investigate all personnel decisions from Meredith's tenure. Several former employees received calls about potential compensation adjustments. In my inbox, an email from an unfamiliar address appeared. "You don't know me. I'm a junior copywriter who started 6 months ago. Meredith told me I wasn't client-ready last week, after I presented an idea she didn't like. Thank you for what you did. You saved us from years of the same treatment. We all know it was you." I forwarded it to Jenna, who had become something of a celebrity in certain circles. Her subscriber count had tripled. She was fielding interview requests from major publications. The story had transcended one bad boss. It had become a movement. "What happens now?" I asked her over the phone. "Now?" she said. "Now we keep going. My inbox is exploding with new tips from other companies." This was never just about Meredith. I realized then that what had started as revenge had evolved into something much bigger than either of us. A month later, Jenna invited me to speak on her newly launched podcast, Crack the Ceiling Live. I declined initially. I was still job hunting, still worried about being blacklisted as a whistleblower. "That's exactly why you should do it," she insisted. "Own your story before someone else defines it for you." She was right. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who'd been systematically undermined, every career derailed by someone like Meredith. So I said yes. And I spoke, not with rage or bitterness, but with clear-eyed conviction about patterns I'd witnessed and experienced. About the subtle ways ambition gets redirected. About the language used to diminish women's contributions while amplifying men's. I didn't name Meredith directly. I didn't have to. The episode was titled simply "The Price of Silence." It went viral within hours. Comments poured in, women sharing eerily similar stories across industries. Men expressing shock at behaviors they'd witnessed but never recognized as systematic. HR professionals promising to look more closely at promotion patterns. My phone rang that evening, a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Leah Morrison?" a woman's voice asked. "Speaking," I replied cautiously. "This is Helena Reyes, VP of Marketing at Crestview Media. I just finished listening to your podcast. We've been following your story. We'd like to offer you something." I sat down, suddenly lightheaded. "I'm listening." The Crestview Media headquarters occupied 14 floors of a gleaming downtown skyscraper. As I rode the elevator to the executive floor, I straightened my blazer and took a deep breath. 3 interviews and 1 comprehensive portfolio review had led to this moment. Helena Reyes met me in the reception area herself, a power move I immediately respected. "Welcome to Crestview," she said, leading me through open-concept workspaces humming with creative energy. "Let me show you your department." My department. Not my cubicle. Not my team. My department. The tour ended in a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Creative director was already etched on the door. "Full authority over your team," Helena explained. "Direct reporting line to me. Competitive salary and bonus structure." She slid a folder across the desk, revealing a number that made me blink twice. "This is generous," I managed. "It's market rate," she corrected firmly, "for someone with your experience and talent." As we finalized details, Helena's assistant appeared with onboarding documents. While Helena stepped out for a call, the assistant leaned closer. "You were that Leah? From Crack the Ceiling?" she whispered. When I nodded, she broke into a huge smile. "Welcome home." For the first time since that terrible day in Meredith's office, I felt something long dormant stirring in my chest. Hope mixed with vindication. This wasn't just a fresh start. It was a restoration of everything that had been systematically stolen from me. 6 months into my new role, a former colleague sent me a link. Meredith had resurfaced with a new personal brand, executive coaching for resilient female leadership through adversity. Her website was sleek and expensive-looking, filled with carefully worded platitudes about overcoming professional challenges and redirecting career setbacks. Not one mention of why she'd left her previous position. Not one acknowledgement of the scandal. Her first LinkedIn article about graceful career transitions was immediately flooded with sarcastic comments. Does this include tips on taking credit for your team's work? Will you cover how to systematically undermine female reports? Is there a chapter on paying women 30% less than men for the same job? Within hours, her comments were locked down, but the damage was done. 2 days later, a viral Reddit post titled, "Would you hire a wolf in heels?" detailed Meredith's history with links to Jenna's articles and the gala video. It was upvoted to the front page. By week's end, Meredith's coaching website had been taken down for maintenance. It never came back online. I didn't feel the satisfaction I'd expected. Instead, I channeled my energy into building the most supportive, transparent team possible. Every campaign carried the names of all contributors. Every good idea was attributed to its source. Every team member received equal development opportunities. When our first campaign won an industry award, I made sure every single person involved joined me on stage. Meanwhile, Meredith faded further from the industry's consciousness, a cautionary tale mentioned in hushed tones at networking events. Nearly a year after the gala, Jenna called with exciting news. A major media network had acquired her platform. Crack the Ceiling was becoming a full investigative series, with Jenna as executive producer and host. "This is just the start," she told me over celebration drinks. "I'm planning a mentorship series, women supporting women for real, not just the performative nonsense." "Count me in," I said without hesitation. We spent hours outlining a program for early career women, concrete skill development, portfolio building, and authentic networking. No empty promises, no deliberately vague feedback, no manufactured competition. "We need to be what we needed," Jenna said simply. The next morning, a courier delivered a package to my office. Jenna's handwriting on the envelope. "Open it when you're alone," her text read. I waited until after hours, curious about the secrecy. Inside was a small, elegant box. I lifted the lid, and my breath caught. The photograph was stunning. Me, standing during the gala, phone in hand, face fierce with determination as Meredith's world imploded on the screens behind her. The moment justice landed, the moment everything changed, it was professionally framed in simple black with one word embossed in gold at the bottom: fearless. A note fell out as I lifted the frame: "For your office wall." A reminder of what happens when women refuse to be silenced. Beneath it was an invitation, thick cream cardstock with gold lettering. "The Women in Leadership Foundation requests the honor of your presence as keynote speaker at next year's annual gala." I traced the embossed letters with my fingertip, remembering how desperately I'd once wanted to belong in those rooms. Now, I was being invited to lead them. I placed the photo on my desk, angled so anyone sitting across from me could see it clearly. Not out of vanity, but as a promise, to myself and to every woman who entered my office, that I would never become what I had fought against. That evening, I called Jenna. "I'll do it," I said. "The keynote." "I never doubted it," she replied. "Start writing your speech. Make it count." For the first time, I realized that our story had never really been about revenge. It had been about reclamation all along. 1 year to the day after Meredith's public downfall, I stood on the same stage where her award had shattered. The same glittering crowd watched, but the energy in the room was utterly transformed. 3 former executives from my old company sat in the front row, all women who had been pushed out before me. They had reached out individually after my podcast appearance, each with their own Meredith story. Now they were friends, allies. "Leadership isn't a crown you wear," I began. "It's a foundation you build for others to stand on." I didn't mention Meredith by name. I didn't have to. Instead, I spoke about patterns, how power becomes poison when hoarded, how true leadership multiplies rather than divides, how success should never come at the cost of crushing others. As I spoke, I saw heads nodding, phones recording, people leaning forward in their seats. Not the polite attention given to most corporate speeches, but the electric focus that comes when truth resonates. If someone tells you you're not ready, I concluded, consider that they might just be afraid you are. The applause wasn't polite, it was thunderous. As I stepped away from the microphone, I caught Jenna's eye in the crowd. She was smiling, phone held high, streaming this moment to thousands of followers. Someone captured the standing ovation, the genuine emotion in the room. By morning, clips of my speech had gone viral again. But this time, I wasn't the woman who brought down a corporate queen. I was simply a leader speaking truth that too many had experienced but few had named. My story wasn't just about revenge anymore. It had evolved into something more powerful, a movement that would outlast any individual career, including mine. 1 year later, my office wall displays 2 framed items side by side. That fierce photo from the gala, and a handwritten note from a young woman I'd never met. Your speech changed how I see myself in this industry. Thank you. Every Friday afternoon, I mentor one woman from our junior staff. No agenda, just honest conversation about navigating a world not always designed for our success. Some weeks we discuss strategy. Others, we troubleshoot difficult situations. Always we focus on growth without compromise. My inbox regularly fills with messages from women I've never met, sharing their stories, their victories, their renewed confidence. Each one is a reminder that speaking truth has ripple effects, far beyond what we can see. Meredith? She disappeared from the public eye entirely. Rumors say she moved across the country, rebranding herself in an adjacent industry, but her name has become shorthand in marketing circles for a certain type of toxic leadership. As for me, I didn't just get revenge. I got something infinitely more valuable: purpose. The story that began with betrayal transformed into a mission that gives meaning to my success. 5 years of being diminished taught me exactly how to ensure no one on my watch ever feels that way again. That's not revenge, that's revolution.